Recording again, as we do every week. So welcome everyone. Welcome to another Connect and Share. Can you believe it's number 31? We've been doing these since April, and it's great to continue these and to make sure we have the conversations that need to be had across the sector and collaborate on all things that are happening in the great outdoors. So may I say Awarami, and that is Darug language for welcome, which is the lands on which I come from today, and may I pay my respects to all Aboriginal people, past, present and emerging leaders of our country and those that we work with on the lands that you come from today. I'm Laurie Mode. I'm the CEO of Outdoors New South Wales and ACT, and like every week I start by saying why we are here, and that is primarily to enrich the communities, to connect them with nature so that they can lead more healthier, fulfilled lives. So today is a great day, and we have Duke of Edinburgh National Office with us today to answer some of the questions that you guys have been asking me. Also, we're going to have Resilience New South Wales, but unfortunately, as they have to react to current situations, they have ducked away to an urgent meeting today with Shane Fitzsimmons on the North Coast. So we're going to have Kylie join us next week, and she did promise that she has made sure she has locked that time away so she can come to you next Friday at 10 a.m. and talk to us about what Resilience New South Wales is. It is a brand new government department, what they aim to achieve, and how we can work with them and benefit from what they are doing. So stay tuned for that next week, but certainly our program today will have Duke of Ed, as well as some discussion around some of the training options at the moment that are out for the sector, a bit of a training discussion as well about some of the things that you're looking for to drive your staff and the skills that you require from them. And then we'll touch on the program that we've put out for consultation. We've had some great discussions this week and last week in relation to this program, and I think the discussions themselves are worth their weight in gold. So we hope to continue that today as well. So a quick week in review: vouchers. So New South Wales, we've got a budget which has a program that's been released. Every person that's aged 18 and over will receive $100 worth of vouchers. So two $25 vouchers for food and restaurants and cafes, and two $25 vouchers for experiences. So here's our opportunity. So I have sent all our members the link to register your details with Service New South Wales to make sure we can advocate for people to get out in the outdoors and connect with nature to drive that experience opportunity with those vouchers. So if you haven't already done so, and you are open to direct consumer customers, please jump in and register your business with Service New South Wales so that you can be one of those opportunities that people can look for. Canberra also have a voucher offering at the moment. This is primarily around Canberrians using Canberra businesses. It's called Access Canberra, and you can certainly register yourselves and encourage people to come and see your business or your opportunity in the ACT. That's a great opportunity in the fact that we're trying to create ambassadors within the Canberra area to understand what they have on their doorstep, so that when they do have visiting friends and relatives, they can also advocate for your product as well. So happy to help with any questions on that, or if you have any difficulties in navigating some of those systems, that's why we're here. So please reach out to us and we can help you there. The other thing we can help you with is certainly around COVID plans. And look, I'm not sick of them yet, but I've certainly read my fair share of COVID plans and have given you all tips and hints on how to navigate some of the challenges around your plans and things to think about as well. That goes hand in hand with some of the good practice guides that have come out of the AAAS and how we manage risk in general. So as a lot of us have said, said, COVID's just another element of risk that we need to put into our plans. And I've enjoyed helping each one of you that have come to me in navigating some of those challenges. If you haven't already done so, the offer is still there, and please reach out and we will help you as much as we can to make it the most effective tool to prevent a COVID outbreak or a COVID case in your business and in the sector. Great news as we start reducing the numbers of the disease, but can I reiterate that we cannot be complacent. We still have to be quite vigilant, because it's only going to take one case for it then to potentially escalate again. Changes in restrictions. You've seen through the members' newsletters that as of 1 December and as of 2 December in Canberra, we've got a releasing of numbers, and we can go to a 2 square metre rule indoors, which is great news for a lot of your product, a lot of your facilities. It means now that school groups are a lot easier to handle in some of your catering facilities and indoor facilities. So yeah, great steps forward, and all of those details will come out into the newsletter that will be out today. If you're not a member, but if you're a member, you would have already received it through our members newsletter this week. And the fourth one there I mentioned earlier, but our Outdoor Leader program, which is a proposed program to look at various things in the sector and look at accountability as well as marketability and growth and prosperity. So look, we certainly haven't landed on the ideal program, because as I say, this is out for consultation with the industry right now. Great conversations being had. We hope those conversations continue. We're closing off conversations on the 6th of December so that the board can then review where we're at with this program and the feedback that we have had. So please, if you haven't already done so, jump onto the Facebook page, which is the group that is having some excellent chats, as well as the survey, which is online if you'd like to be more private in that, or today is a great opportunity to also talk to that. So enough about that. So today, let's get straight into the Duke of Ed program, because this is something that we all dearly are invested in, love seeing the results from this program. So we have the amazing Kathleen Hewitt and Peter Kay with us today to talk to us about where they are up to as far as COVID and the concessions that are in place. So what I might do is hand over to you guys, and I'll let you talk about yeah, what you do and literally where we're up to.
Okay, great. Thank you, Laurie, again, and to the members that are on the attending this meeting for the opportunity for Kathleen and I to attend. And we're attending from a national office point of view, or a national office representation, whereas normally you would be dealing with the New South Wales award team, and it's to do with the nature of your topic today, where we're looking at the changes introduced by the Duke of Ed internationally to enable young people to continue to engage with their program, and more importantly, to complete their Duke of Ed program and still meet all the health hygiene requirements being imposed by the governments in various countries. And so, being an international organisation and the product being a consistent international product, then we have rolled it out and been very major contributors to the discussions regarding what needs to be done for completion. Can I say that it's actually been a really useful, like a lot of things with COVID, a very useful opportunity to strip back methodology versus the original purpose or aim of the Duke of Ed as a product. And the main sections that challenged young people to complete it under isolation, restricted mobility, were the Adventurous journey, the service volunteering, and the residential project, which is undertaken at the gold level. The skills section, some young people had to modify their skills if they originally involved an outdoor component, and the physical recreation, again, some had to change their activity, but they could still find things to complete those two sections and readily qualify. But the AJ and the volunteering did need intervention, and we brought in some temporary changes to enable the young people to proceed. Just a few statistics that might be of interest to you, because you've all been monitoring your business take a huge hit in your customers and young people engaging, those in private schools with outdoor education centres, just suddenly you closed your doors. So with the Duke of Ed, Australia, between March and April, our registration numbers at this critical period of registration dropped into the 50s, 54, 55, 56%. Clearly, we were not in the top 10 priorities of any youth worker or teacher in Australia at that point in time. And we noted that, and we certainly stepped back and allowed people to do what they had to do in terms of the important priorities in their lives. What we found is after Easter, so around May, we started to see registrations pick up again. And we saw them stabilise at around minus 15 to 20% comparative to the previous year. So, and to give an example, we closed off the financial year June end with just over 25,000 registrations, compared to the previous year, 28, and compared to what we were on track for to achieve for the financial year, which was 32. And so to give an example, we were so ahead before COVID that the actual registration drop was only 6%.
Wow.
So it's a real indication that the Duke of Ed, in terms of take up and growth, was trending the right way. Our drop in registration numbers we're at the very, very bottom of other countries, compares very favourably. The average is around a 40% drop. Some countries had a 90% drop.
Wow.
And so we're very pleased with where we're at. Going forward, we expect this current financial year, 2021, to stay roughly where the numbers ended up. We'd be quite happy to achieve 25,000 again. And as a prudent organisation, we've budgeted for less than that. I think we've budgeted for around 23,000. So we're being cautious. As an organisation, we have not dropped any of our resources on the front line. All staff have been retained in every state and territory. And so the only pruning we've done has been at a national level. And the budget supporting delivery operations has remained intact, and we have the reserves to seize on opportunities or plug any holes that are needed. So that's just a broad overview of how we have fared as an organisation. It also interests you that going forward, we were in the middle of a 12-month strategic planning process, and we are proceeding with the planning work. But like yourselves, we're putting out an interim plan, a final draft document to guide our operations, and that'll be signed off sometime next year, latter part of next year. The strategic plan has a 5-year target of a minimum 75,000 registrations. So that compares to where we peaked at 28, where we had a milestone of minimum 30. So that's a very, very ambitious growth in basic terms. But we have a number of initiatives that give us confidence that that is quite achievable. It's not an aspirational target. It's actually one that has come out of looking at the various strategies. And if we achieve those at a modest level, then the 75,000 is very, very doable. So, and so we have not only a big number on our registrations, but we're also have set a big number on completions. About 42 to 45% completions are at the moment, which is very damn good for a program that takes more than a year to complete one section on average. In Australia, it takes 14 months, 1 week to complete the Bronze Award on average, which is a lot longer than most people anticipate. And the third piece of our plan is our diversity, and we've broadened our reach in terms of disadvantaged young people, high need, special need, and Australia is tracking very well in that space. We have a target of 20% diversity. And to give you an indication, just in the last 5 years, we have funded over 6,000 young people on an average of about $450 each to undertake the award. So we are backing ourselves in terms of reaching these diversity targets, socioeconomic, intellectual, physical disability, remote, disengaged, education, disengaged young people, the whole stream. So they're the three big streams that we're focusing on. So let me pause on that. And
a quick question though, Peter, you mentioned initiatives that to strive for that 75. Is it too much to ask for you to give away some of those initiatives, or is it still work in progress?
Look, I'm looking around the meeting room now, and you all have honest faces. I'm sure I can. Those that look down, I better mute you. Okay, look, we can. There's our strategies are in two components. We have what we call driving strategies, and we have the enabling or the supporting strategies. So the easy ones, the enabling and supporting, would not be foreign to many of you in your own space, but they are largely around greater use of digitalisation, initiatives around volunteer management. It may surprise you that in Australia we need upwards or around 60,000 volunteers a year to deliver the award.
Wow.
Right, so it's a big, we are more a volunteer organisation than we are a youth delivery organisation. We have active about 45,000 young people at any one time, but it takes 60,000 volunteers to deliver the program throughout Australia. Yeah. So we have volunteer management strategies, volunteer retention strategies. We have digital strategies. We have some strategies around our systems and processes, because we're a semi-federated model, and to bring in greater efficiencies. But the driving strategies are largely around, and this would definitely interest you, they're largely around moving from passive recognition by government, particularly the education system, to a stronger endorsement. We are working very closely on, so this may also be news that would probably affirm what you understand, but the Duke of Ed internationally is the world's largest accrediting body of non-formal education and learning. Okay, and the countries that are growing the fastest are seeking that part of the Duke of Ed out. Yep. So when we look at Eastern Europe, we look at China, we look at Africa, they all want that non-formal education learning accreditation piece. And what we're doing is we want to move that from being in a informal space to a much more recognised space. And we have had initiatives in the current strategic period around employers openly recognising the Duke of Ed, sporting organisations, tertiary sector universities. So we've been working in that space, but we want to actually move it to the next level, where the education system, in reviewing its academic exam-based dominant platform, and is currently looking at alternative streams of recognising learning and accrediting learning, that the Duke of Ed model would be one stream that would be endorsed or considered. So that's the big one that would suddenly have government independent Catholic school system embracing it even further. Okay, so to become a whole of school or a whole of Year 9 program, or right through to Year 12 or whatever. So, so that's a big one. We have a major strategy going on with the around the emergency services, emergency space, and that will align the training of young people as emergency responders to a gold Duke of Ed. the numbers there are between 10 and 30,000 a year.
Wow.
Okay, and that has been signed off by government, and it's now in the final phases of being approved for piloting. So, the third big piece for us is around completions, continuity and completions. So only around 20% go on to silver, and only about 10% go on to gold.
Wow.
And a lot of that is in your space. A lot of that is because of not completing the AJ, or the volunteering element, the award leaders unable to take another deep breath and continue on with that group. So it's the delivery model, as well as the resourcing element of getting young people to complete the program.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives you a bit of a taste of what we're thinking. I hope that's what you're.
Yeah, no, that's great. Really exciting to hear some of those initiatives. It's reassuring as far as your targets are certainly very exciting.
And we're clearly dependent. The volunteering sector, the service volunteering section, and the AJ section are clearly ones where, as we scale up, we're totally dependent on third-party providers to work with the award centres and the young people to get that through. That's a trend that's been in place now for a good decade.
Yeah.
And as some of the award leaders who have done their activities in-house age, retire, those coming in behind them, the volunteering patterns are less likely to be giving up weekends and school holidays to be taking young people out themselves for a whole host of reasons. So we see a very rapid increase in the reliance on third-party providers for those two sections of the award. Already underway. It's only going to accelerate even more. So keeping you guys briefed, encouraging you, will be reliant on your sector for delivery. We're not going to get the 75,000 young people with 60% completing done because it's all being managed or largely being managed in-house.
Brilliant. Yeah, and look, I'm sure I speak for the sector when I say thank you for recognising that. But I know that everyone that's involved in the program fully believes on the outcomes of the program as well. So you've got a bit of volunteer motive behind what they do as well.
No, we love our groupies. So specifically on COVID, the changes that were introduced were about enabling young people to do, so I'm going to focus now on just the AJ, enabling young people to move through the program and get the benefits and the outcomes and not stall. A big message was for the award leaders to say, look, you can register young people in the program knowing that they can finish, that they're not going to get 3/4 of the way through and they can't do their AJ. So we moved very, very quickly to see what can be done to enable young people to do the award with the restrictions in place. So worked at two levels. One was the conditions themselves. Now I'm going to build a story up from the base. And the base is that we initially made the changes to the bronze. The bronze level does not have aspirational huge impact on young people. It is a taste platter. It is where young people get a taste for the award. They try things out. They normally complete the award en masse. They're part of a larger group, and they get into that notion of doing activities, logging, reflecting, personal bests, and they get to understand the framework of the award, the 4-part framework, the regularity of engagement, etc. So the bronze is definitely not about achieving major outcomes. I mean, any half-decent employer would smile if you had a bronze on your CV, but would take the silver or gold more seriously. So for us, it was about what does it take to get them through. So the changes in terms of recognising a silver practice as part of a bronze final journey, those types of arrangements, introducing the virtual exploration, where it can all be done online, were part of recognising the reality of moving young people through the program and ensuring they got the benefits of completion, and then they got the greater benefits of moving to the next level. In doing so, what we actually found, if we give the example of creating the virtual Adventurous journey, what we actually found was that actually met the requirements in terms of the aim of this section and the benefits and the outcomes a lot more than doing a physical journey following the leader. That's just the reality. I mean, the physical one's more exciting, but in terms of outcome generation, the outcomes in terms of teamwork and group work and communication, and so I'm sure I'm going to be a little bit sarcastic here, but I'm sure you can all rattle off the 8 outcomes in the handbook for the Adventurous Journey section just like that. Because we're so focused on the 15 requirements of the AJ in terms of the physical requirements of the journey, but not really why those requirements are there to achieve 8 outcomes, because you can actually achieve all the requirements and not achieve any of the outcomes. So what it made us do is go back to the purpose of that section and approved a virtual option. Now, that virtual option was already there. Young people tied to a bed in hospitals, young people in the corrective systems were doing virtual AJs already. And they've been in place for years, like decades. It just wasn't a dominant thing. It wasn't talked about. It was just done on the side. So let's not say that we created something out of the blue. What we took was arrangements that were already in place and promoted them more publicly for young people to complete. So those arrangements are there, and most of you would have become familiar with them. They are temporary. They've been extended. They've been extended again till July next year, with a proviso that the normal requirements will kick in as soon as the locality, the country, the state allows it to. So if a young person has the option of completing their journey in a physical situation, and they can ably, bodily, mentally do that, then that is the default. They can't take the flexible arrangement going forward if there's no medical or mental reason for them to do so. So that's an important thing. Although it's extended, it basically means that it's an option. It's not the preference, and that's how we're communicating it to people. Just leave a summary of that at that point. Kathleen, if I left anything out, just jump in if there's anything critical there. But that's the concept of what we've done and why we've done it.
So just to paraphrase, and please correct me where I might be wrong on this. So the bronze level, it's certainly encouraged to do the physical option now because restrictions have allowed it to do so. But they have to prove some sort of criteria to go down the line of the virtual?
Yes, they have to show that it can't be done. And the main one at the moment is around the social distancing.
Yeah.
That's a key at the moment. So yes, they can go out of their homes. Yes, they can do this, they can do that. But can they undertake the journey with social distancing? You know, so that gets down to sleeping arrangements. It gets down to the actual journeying arrangements, meal preparation, hygiene, that type of activity. And so what we've seen is journeys where there's food drops arranged, or they camp somewhere where there's vehicle access, so they can so yes, people are making arrangements, but they're the two main considerations: the distancing and the hygiene component. Sleeping arrangements, everyone carrying their own tent and carrying their own cooking gear becomes unnecessarily arduous.
Yeah.
And the award is not about, completing the bronze award is not about 6 blisters, 4 leeches and gluggy rice. That's just, it is about team challenges and decision making and planning. It's coming out of it, understanding that you can solve problems, you work together as a group. And if none of that's been engendered and all they remember is the leeches and the gluggy rice, well, and then they laugh about that. A good time, but that they didn't actually move requirements of the award.
Yeah. Okay, so now moving through to the other levels, the concessions that exist in those levels.
So just recently they've been extended to silver in the same manner, and it's all about enabling a bit of a trade-off between the practice and the qualifying from level to level. So because the practice is all about demonstrating competence. And this is why I'm saying, this is why I've said about some of the rigidity that we've got into requiring everyone to tick boxes rather than demonstrating necessarily competence. And can I mention here that we've had countries with the permission of the international body already modify practice. In Australia, if you look at our handbook carefully, there is an option to modify the practice. So if someone has demonstrated through their background that they've been involved with scouting or guiding for a long time, or they've their family mag keen weekend warriors, then they've demonstrated competence. And if you've got a group of them, then the AJ assessor can say, right, well, let's go straight into a qualifying AJ, or they can do the practice, having done a modified practice. So for example, we now, it can be done where a person doing a silver, instead of doing a 3-day, 2-night practice, can do a lesser practice because they've shown their competence. Okay, so there is always some modification. Now in the UK, that extends to bronze. So if the award centre, with the advice of the subject matter expert, the Adventurous journey assessor, feels that group have the background and experience, that they may have been involved in school cadet programs or whatever, then they don't have to do a practice for the sake of ticking off a Duke of Ed practice. So we have this front end flexibility. We already had that. And so it didn't take much to extend that. So at the moment, bronze and silver, they can get away with only doing one journey.
But there is that element of proof to justify.
Safety risk management always comes first and foremost. If someone changes their means of journeying, they did a walk and now they're canoeing for the first time, well, they've got to show competence in the canoe paddling. Yeah. Yeah. So if anything, it's removing the robotic element and making it a little more an assessment or a judgment on a group-to-group basis.
Okay. Yeah. So I suppose I'm just trying to connect some of the questions that I've been getting from the industry around the reduction in time that people are spending out there. I'm getting there might be a bit of confusion in communication here, because it has to be justified, or they've got to prove that they have either achieved or have the capacity to do that by reducing that. So there should be no reason why there is a reduction in the award unless they can justify they've done it in other capacities.
Correct.
Right.
And so even looking at the new virtual option that's been provided out there, at the moment, that is to be used only when there's no other options. And when most of the use has been hybrid. So what we've actually found is people have done their initial training online. They may have been able to do a day activity, but not an overnight piece to qualify for the physical component. And then they may have done the final journey online through the virtual option, which, by the way, the ones that have done the virtual option are saying, bring back the physical. The virtual is much harder. So because they can't hide behind the group and follow the leader piece. So it does require them all to be quite active.
And besides, it's a lot more fun.
Yeah. So even with that, the majority have done it as a hybrid. And what we want to do is to just put the message out that they can complete it. They don't have to stall. They don't have to wait. So your observation is correct, Laurie, that it has to be justified. We've provided some flexible options, but the default is still the team journey outdoors.
Yeah. Okay. So I'd love your response. So if a Duke of Ed operator was to get a school inquiry and they've said, well, we're only going to do this component, how should an operator respond to that? Is there a system, and forgive me if there is a system that I should know about, but what is the process that operator goes through to encourage that full completion or that compliance with that gap area?
I would suggest that question probably aligns more with the silver level than it would with the bronze, because the bronze is very clear, and there wouldn't be too many situations where you need to establish competence, because it's a very low risk, lightweight form of journey and engagement. However, someone's doing the silver, and you'd have to establish that they've either done the bronze, and in the bronze it involves a journey, or they've done it elsewhere. So it only requires the activity provider, who is now the appointed assessor for that award centre. It just requires them to have asked those questions and satisfy themselves that those young people have established that competence through the earlier level or some other form of outdoor skills development.
Wonderful. And liaison, obviously, with the state office would certainly help in some of the navigating if they get that conflicting.
Look, where there's doubt, that I don't think that's all that different now. When you're accepting a group, if a school books in a group and says they're doing, this is for their silver qualifying, the provider at that point is acting as the approved activity assessor for that school. And I'm sure, I would expect they've been asking those questions now. Otherwise, you're taking people sight unseen. And 2 hours in, you realise that, one's got a gammy back and the other one's just had, whatever. So I'm sure that happens now. I don't think it actually changes the process anymore in terms of that due diligence.
So the current flexibility that exists in the Australian model, and how does that compare to the concessions? If I talk about, that it's widely known that there's concessions due to COVID, is that a different area, or are we just saying that the flexibility that we provide is the concessions for COVID?
Yeah. Would you agree, Kathleen? We don't use the concession language. We've introduced flexible arrangements with the conditions, but we have not got concessions. I'm trying to think out loud. I'm staring at the screen at Kathleen. There's something that's popped up, but I can't think of a concession that we've introduced as distinct from these flexible arrangements.
Kathleen, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I think we've highlighted in the temporary changes to the award, we've highlighted where there's the inherent flexibility that already exists within the award program to help operators through this period. And then the temporary changes obviously relating to that bronze silver arrangement when it comes to the Adventurous journey, and some other temporary changes just to facilitate progression throughout the COVID period, up until when those changes are in place for July 2021.
So what happens after July 2021, I suppose, is the biggest question that I'm getting from the industry.
Laurie, it'll happen before July 2021. I mean, we've had states, the Northern Territory in particular, have not gone into flexible arrangements that we know of, because they were able to do their journeying pretty well normally. So Victoria's had the craziness. New South Wales has been, midstream now. So what I mentioned before will stay through. The arrangements are there only when needed. The default is still the arrangements as per the handbook.
Yeah, great.
Okay? So there has to be justification. Right now, if a group want to do their silver award using the virtual platform, they have to justify it.
Yeah, great.
There's got to be a reason for it. Yeah. Otherwise, the default is the expedition or the exploration.
Brilliant. Yeah, Peter and Kathleen, I've had a question in the chat from David Chitty just in relation to the AAAS and the good practice guides. David, did you want to ask your question?
Yeah, basically, as a proponent of good standards, I like to see as many organisations as possible at least identifying the standards to their participants. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're a participant in this awards, you might not need to read the whole lot, but just knowledge that they exist and that if you were taking people for a walk as a leader, that there are those sorts of bits of information there. And I'm wondering if a requirement to read and at least read the standards are there and have a little bit of an understanding could be something that could be built into things like the Duke of Edinburgh Scouting and a whole range of other organisations.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, David, thanks for the question. It's actually opens up a much more broader and important response. Can I start with the short answer? No. The next short answer, is it likely to come in? No. Why? Because the Duke of Ed does not deliver activity at all. It is a framework that is activity-free zone, right? We ourselves do not create activity, and therefore the activities that can be done are the decision of the licensed youth groups, schools, community groups, councils, prisons, whoever take on the award framework. And because the type of activities that can be done are endless in the Duke of Ed, as an organisation, we don't engage in the compliance and the various activity standards. We always refer to the senior activity body of that activity. So if someone's got a question on glass blowing, we refer them to the Master Glass Blowers Guild. If they've got a question on cycling, it's the Bicycle Institute. So, and if we were to start to buy into that and then make that a requirement, we're starting to get into a compliance field that we will never be able to control. There's literally a zillion standards out there for what you can just imagine. I can see from your background, obviously you're big into Scottish Highland dancing. Or is that a raft behind you? But you can just see there's just no limit to the sort of activities that can be done. So we don't engage in promoting standards or letting people know that here is all the legislation. So it's I think it's a really important understanding of the Duke of Ed. We do not deliver activity.
So it'd be the Department of Education and all the institutions that are doing that. It's more important that we educate them on the importance of the AAAS and the good practice guides.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you for that.
And so if you wanted to put something on your website that connects your organisation to Duke of Ed and you want to make those comments, you can do that, but we wouldn't do it.
Yeah, no, really great feedback. Thank you. I'm really keen to hear from anyone else if you've got any questions for Peter or Kathleen, because we've taken up a hell of a lot of their time this morning, but I know I'm very appreciative because I think it's provided the sector with a little bit more understanding on what has been perceived as a reduction in requirement, when in actual fact it's probably not. It's actually justifying that difference and making sure that they can still achieve everything that's required of the bronze, silver and gold levels. Anyone else want to chime in or ask a question? This is that part of a Zoom with that awful awkward silence until someone wants to speak. But if there's none, I thank you guys immensely for being here. You are welcome to attend any Friday at 10 o'clock to connect with the sector. We have probably the smallest group we've had for quite some time, which is a good thing because it means everyone's out there doing stuff. But we record these and we put them on the YouTube channel so that people can review them, and we're still getting quite a few views on that, which is great to see. So thank you guys. Very appreciative of your time. You're welcome to stick around if you want to, or I know you're all busy and have other things on your agendas. So from all of us here, thank you.
Thanks, Laurie, and to the members. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you guys. Guys, the other things on the agenda for the last 13 or so minutes that we have was around some training, and I've been talking with Skills IQ. The infection control training is now fee-free, as you've probably seen in a few newsletters. So I just wanted to reiterate, if you want to have it yourself or get your staff qualified in infection control, that is now available as fee-free. It's the tongue twister of the day. So the link will come out in today's newsletter. Urge you to get onto that. But I've been asked a really significant question from Skills IQ because they're putting some bids forward on some of the modules that TAFE and other RTOs can offer. What do we need to help our staff in getting upskilled in current conditions, or what do we need to get people jobs in our sector? Now, not obviously the full qual, because we know that we're advocating on behalf of the full qual, but are there any particular modules or different skill sets that you are seeing that we can provide people in our sector to get into these jobs? It's a big question, but I just want to throw it out there in case anyone had some great input onto that so that I could feed it back to Skills IQ. Carolyn, please feel free.
Hi, and I don't know if this has been discussed in previous discussions, but one thing that we're seeing is benefit in some form of mental health awareness, and not so much the Mental Health Australia first aid training that is very more clinical based,
Yes,
but a bit more of a practical, in the field, not crisis management, but just general day-to-day out in the bush assistance.
so can I paraphrase by saying awareness and basic first aid, or is it more just general awareness?
I think it's probably more around the first aid or the ability to recognize, the same way that we're trained to recognize when someone might be physically not quite right.
Yep.
Some way of being able to train our staff to recognize when someone might be more mentally stressed than just inundated with being in a foreign environment.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's great. That's awesome. Thank you. As a mental health first aider myself, I reiterate that, and I think that'd be really important to get into a lot of our fields. We had an interesting discussion with a few stakeholders last week around soft skills. And I think that brings into some of that discussion around the soft skills required in the sector that we don't normally have, Cert 3 or a Cert 4 or diploma. And it might touch on a little bit of that mental health aspect as well.
Yeah, I mean, especially that, I think the interpersonal skills, I think, are one of the more vital skills of our industry. They're skills that you only learn at the moment. We've only ever learnt them on the fly. And I can recall my Cert 3 and Cert 4 where they were taught as modules in the course, but there was no paperwork to prove it, and you just thought it was part of the course. And until then, everything got reduced by time, and those skills just weren't talked about or managed on the fly like they used to be when you had time.
Unfortunately, Simone's ducked off the call, but I would have liked to have asked Simone that question because, being someone that's already teaching that field, the importance of that side of things. But no, that's really great feedback. Thank you. Did anyone else want to add to that list, or do they concur with Carol and myself in that area?
I think that I agree there, and not only our participants, of course, but our fellows, our peers, and our staff. If we've got a leadership responsibility in an organisation, I think it's important to recognise that. Another one that could be looked at is a module on duty of care of leaders. It's often unclear, where a duty of care is embodied in an organisation, and where duty of care is in a leader in making decision making, and where a leader might end up in court, for instance, or in trouble with the coroner or someone else around their decisions. Because there's been there's been various cases in previous years that, where leaders have gone to jail or been fined, running activities while drunk and other types of things. I think it was in the Northern Territory, that one. But I think it's an area that's unclear.
Yes.
And a lot of leaders don't think they're responsible at all. And I think there's some clarity in that. Even just the research on it would be very useful before the course.
Absolutely. No, good point. I think that's something that I can definitely take to the table. Interested, I don't know, Rob, if you're there, but interested from a tourism perspective, obviously you're more in that space. Is there anything that you're seeing that you need your staff to be more aware of? He might have ducked off for a coffee, I'm not too sure. Doesn't seem to be there, but anyway, that's all right. Look, guys, it's 7 minutes left today. I don't know whether I want to sort of start a big conversation.
Yeah, Laurie, hi.
Oh, sorry, Rob, go for it.
Yeah, no, my screen went blank. Yeah, I've just been listening and trying to mull it over and what we're trying to achieve. In our mid-coast or north of Sydney area, there's very little skills base. All our youth go off to either university or do other things. One of our targets is to work with TAFE and try and get them the modicum of skills like the Cert 3, Cert 4, in resorts and caravan park management and things like that, or guiding, or so those certification type things. But we haven't even scratched the surface to know to get into the schools and ask them if kids want to. We've got lots of nippers clubs, we've got all sorts of canoe clubs and outdoor activities, and all these kids that play soccer and all sorts of other things would be well suited because they just fit in outdoors people. So that's one of our targets, and we've got a little tourism association here that is it might be focusing on giving people skills for the tourism industry, meaning receptionists and cleaners for apartments and things. But for my point, there's probably there's little more than 20 small activity providers, meaning horse rides, people, hires and things like that. So across the board, there's not actually that many, and they're all one-man operators. And to try and corral them all together and get together so it gets people talking about skills and things has been a little bit difficult. But we haven't sort of really TAFE are going to help drive us with it. But if there's other organisations, we'll bring that under the into the tent or put it in the folder to users as well. So very little, but also just last point, I did advertise 3-5 weeks ago about here's these free TAFE courses, who wants to do it? And one of them was first aid, and one of them was just the general breakdown units of these Cert 4s and 3s, and no one replied.
Right. So do you put
maybe
that
it was
down
COVID, maybe it was the fact that they
so keep going.
You put it down to COVID, or you put it down to the fact that the people weren't there in front of them to be able to train them, because school kids hadn't put their hands up to be, outdoors people. But so I don't know what it was, but no one replied.
it's interesting because I must admit the number of conversations I've had around just people not being aware of our industry. Like they know we're there, but they don't understand us and they don't understand what we stand for. And that school leaver discussion is so crucial. We talked about nature play last week, and just to reiterate, we've got a meeting coming up on the 10th of December. If anyone's interested in nature play, the registrations are now out. Sam has released that, and it'll be in today's newsletter. But just on that, it's sort of we've got to start getting out more awareness from the younger age right through, so that we start building for the future and these people coming through the industry. And I think generically the challenge that we've had is just people aren't aware of the opportunities more than not standing up when they are on offer. I'm probably paraphrasing a little bit, but yeah, it's interesting to see that study work grow. For example, an organisation we've been working with in the last couple of weeks have really helped us in getting some articles and things out about our sector with great response. But yeah, we've just got to start getting through these barriers, I think.
Well, we're definitely not talked about as an option.
Yeah.
I mean, being an outdoor, come and be an outdoor activities leader, cooker, caretaker, who knows what you are. Multiple hats, many colours all at once. That was never on my career's discussion. Not because I wouldn't be interested, but because Dr. Lawyer Indian Chief, sure, but paddler on a white water for money.
Yeah. Isn't that what you do on weekends? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's a really interesting discussion that I think we've all got to work together to make that happen. And certainly I see us as the peak body providing tools and resources to help you do that, but we've got to do it all together, because not one voice can do it on their own. Awesome, guys. Look, it's 2 minutes left, and I don't want to jump into new topics right at this stage, but I encourage you all to get onto the proposed program site and also the survey, which will come out again in today's newsletter, and have your say on that. Look, it's one thing that we're trying to do to achieve some growth and prosperity in the industry, as well as the things that we've been discussing today. So as always, reach out if there's anything that we can do to help alleviate stresses and strains on your areas of expertise in the sector. Until next time, join us next Friday.
Can I just ask one question?
Of course, Rob.
There's just one thing I might have missed it when Peter was talking, and I may have missed the obvious answer, but did he say that there was going to be an automatic increase or decrease or plateauing of the outdoor education sector for the next 6 months to 5 years? Is it positive, or is it sort of still in limbo? I don't know if he
let me go back to my copious amounts of notes that I took as you were speaking. He's being conservative in his budget approach of 23,000 for 2021, but however his strategic plan is aiming for a 5-year consistent growth, which he's hoping to achieve by that stage 75,000 participants per year, which is obviously a huge growth, like 300% on what they currently are. So I think he is forecasting a large growth in the sector, a large take up in the program, and that's why I asked about the initiatives, because I saw the initiatives as obviously being a big catalyst to proving those results. And certainly, from the basic understanding of those 3 initiatives that he did detail, which was around looking at the digitization, the emergency services, and delivering resourcing, I think it's probably pathing its way for growth, if I can paraphrase. Anyone else, please speak up if you think otherwise. But I certainly.
And Dave Chitty, is he sort of coming back to half by normal, or Dave, are you positive about it?
I'm reasonably positive that there'll be steady growth. We're getting a little bit of a tourism-y thing before Christmas. I think it's going to go a little bit crazy with the schools in the first term of next year, but it'll be interesting to see how as the education pressures to maths and English and everything else start to kick in early next year, as how schools and others manage winter and then the following years. I think there will be growth, but I think there's going to be bumps and grinds depending on the school. Yeah.
All right, thanks, team.
No worries, Rob. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much again. If you want to join us for happy hour at 4 o'clock, the link is on our Facebook page. Otherwise, we'll see you 10 o'clock next week. So have a great week ahead and talk to you all soon.